Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. We open with a government satellite containing a biological weapon crashing down to Earth. Technician Man says that they have no idea where it's going to land, but Dr. Forsyth is worried because inside is the hibernating beast. He assures General Randolph that the creature will pose little threat if it survives the crash, so it sounds like a pretty useless weapon. Meanwhile, a psychic named Lady Elaine senses the impending invasion with her powers, so thinks, oh crap, I better tell somebody. She tries to call Detective Ian of the LAPD, but he's currently on a stakeout at a warehouse with his partner Jerry. They try to arrest a pair of thieves, but one shoots Ian, so Jerry puts down a kid who almost got away with about $2 worth of Halloween masks. The other one gets in his car, so they blow it up along with half the block because no criminal is safe when Jerry and Ian are on the case. When Captain Robertson arrives, the boys claim self-defense, but Ian is only about 3 dead crackheads away from being transferred to Alaska. This is the type of captain who's on a first-name basis with daytime hookers and confiscates the boys' guns, so now they have to kung fu their arrests. Instead of going to the hospital, Ian patches up his wound by himself because now he gets to claim that whiskey on his tax return. Outside of town, the 30-year-old teenager Jason's car broke down, so his girlfriend Marilyn gives him a hard time about it. He just wants to get this thing fixed so that he can drive them both off a cliff when the satellite suddenly comes crashing down beside them. Mary rightfully predicts that there's an alien inside just waiting to violate her lady part, so a hopeful Jason takes her over to check it out. Among the rubble they locate a large cocoon that Jason immediately sticks his fingers inside the first hole he sees. The scientists monitoring bioweapon Bessie's dormant state say that Jason has turned it on, and not in a fun way. Tendrils reach out from the pod and constrict Jason, then rip him into 1,000 pieces before grabbing Marilyn. The beast goes full Evil Dead and drags her into a second mouth on its stomach, but the scientists don't seem too bothered by all of this. They're confident that it will hibernate now, but Randy says what happens when another kid gets 2 fingers deep in Bessie. The next day at the station, Ian meets the new transfer Carla and invites her to his place for dinner because he burns a mean steak. Jerry interrupts to say that Elaine is on the phone and wants to speak with Ian, but he just ignores the crazy psychic lady. Robertson sends him to investigate the satellite crash that was witnessed by the police informant Svenson the bum. He requires whiskey to jog his memory, but it doesn't take long before he's talking about a flying Cadillac and UFOs. Now that he's drunk as a skunk, they then send him out the front door to pass out on the side of the street. When Ian leaves, the captain warns Carla not to get involved with him because he has a habit of getting his new partners killed. Arriving at the crash site, they find the teenagers remain scattered about and call it a double homicide, but aren't sure what caused it. Their only suspect is the bioweapons cocoon, which Dr. Rogers calls an organic rock, but the dim-witted detectives need him to explain what organic means.
The rock did it. Case closed. Throw this rock in jail.
While looking around, the partners stumble across 2 smaller cocoons, so Jerry agrees to help Ian steal them, despite knowing full well that this man's ideas get all his partners killed. The larger pod and its resident get loaded up into a truck and taken back to the forensics lab for Rogers to perform an autopsy. He waits until everybody has left the office before he begins dropping acid on the element that doesn't feature on the periodic table. The bioweapon beast wakes up from its hibernation and climbs out so slowly that Rogers could easily walk away if he had any survival instincts. He doesn't, so Bessie uses its tendrils to pull the doctor into the body mouth that eats him off screen, then escapes into the city. When all of the department arrive the next day, they find nothing left of Rogers but blood, so the captain tells them to solve this, but still doesn't give them back their guns. Meanwhile, Svenson stumbles into a warehouse where the bioweapon beast has taken shelter, so we never see the bum again. The boys return to the crash site, but find the government has already begun turning this place into Area 52, and the men in black sent Hawkins. He tells them to leave, and when they don't comply, threatens to unload a Desert Eagle into their faces from 3 feet away, which does the trick. Ian stuffs his butt in it and the pair return to the station, but Hawkins has already beat them there and told a bunch of lies. Robertson says that the deaths have been ruled accidents, so I guess their own colleague Rogers just spontaneously combusted. Ian wants justice but instead receives a suspension, so he goes home to cook dinner using the over-the-shoulder pepper roll technique. He then oven roasts his steaks without searing them, like a complete psychopath, before receiving a phone call from Lady Elaine. She says that she knows what happened, so that makes one of them, but Ian doesn't take her seriously when she begins talking about aliens. He says, "Look lady, I have to go because I was silly enough to burn my steaks in the oven, as I've apparently never made my own dinner." This was supposed to be for tonight's date with Carla, so they get takeaway burgers instead to avoid chipping a tooth. When she asks for Ian to play some music, the gentleman grabs his bagpipe because nothing spells seduction like the sound of air being strangled through a sheep's bladder. Carla's helpless to resist the pipe, however she experiences her first hit and run when afterwards Ian jumps out of bed and says he has to leave. He wants to bring the pod to his entomologist friend, but Ian didn't even know what UFO stood for, so he just calls this guy a bug researcher. Carla tags along because he chose now of all times to do this, but Professor Whately hasn't been this close to a woman since Wacky Scientist School. Upon being presented the pod, he asks if it's safe to crack open, but they don't know. Obviously that's why they come to him for answers. This madman just begins hammering away with a chisel, and when that doesn't work, grabs a drill that'll surely do the trick. He releases an unidentified gas that they just stand inside and inhale, along with a baby bioweapon beast that leaps on the dock. It bites out his neck, so Ian pulls it off and throws it directly at Carla because honestly he forgot she was even here. He then shoves it into a fumigation terrarium where the creature is destroyed with a special combination of very lethal gases. Those are the words Doc uses as he's wheeled away by paramedics instead of just telling us the exact formula, so all we have is 2 jars of the stuff. It turns into just one the next time we see it, and Ian suddenly remembers Jerry has a pod as well, so he tries calling him. Unfortunately, the partner thinks the sound is coming from the pod, but there's no handle on this thing to grab, so he can't answer it. Something he can grab is the meatloaf out of the oven, and this is the man who was rejected by every woman at the station, while MasterChef Ian was able to bagpipe Carla. He also nearly kills them both on the way over to Jerry's house because apparently Ian can't drive or is a big fan of the Dukes of Hazzard. They arrive in one piece, however Jerry is the 3rd partner that Ian's got killed this year, so Carla can't say the captain didn't warn her.
Okay.
Because the baby beast is still inside him, Ian pulls out a knife and begins stabbing at Jerry's corpse, which doesn't sound like something a jury would believe. It leaps on him, but upon realizing this is the main protagonist, the creature scurries away into the neighbor's house.
Boy, monster, honey.
One unconfident delivery later, and Ian follows a slime trail through suburbia into the house of a woman credited as just that. He says, "Don't worry ma'am, I'm a police officer, they just don't trust me with a gun, so I'm going to have to take your weapon for myself." Ian then immediately goes searching her underwear drawer because these bioweapons are known to be a little bit kinky, and finds one of the things he was looking for. It avoids the main protagonist again and goes for the bigger threat, so Ian uses his bat to send baby Bessie into metaphorical orbit. He just assumes that it's dead, so he leaves it at this lady's house to hopefully not wake up while stealing her only weapon if it does. He returns to Jerry's house where Elaine calls to say, "If I wasn't a real psychic, then how would I have known you were here?" Touché, so Ian believes her when she tells him that the original Bio Bessie is hiding at the warehouse where it killed the liquored up Levinson. Ian and Carla stop off to pick up some guns because apparently this guy had weapons hidden all over his apartment, but still took that lady's bat. When they leave, however, Hawkins shows up and demands the beast's location, but makes the mistake of telling Carla to shut up.
Excuse me?
She takes him at gunpoint and they stuff him in the trunk of his car, but we never see that guy again, so my guess is he starved. There's a lone security guard patrolling the warehouse they're going to, and he distracts the government's superweapon with a simple flashlight. Instead of running away, he then whips out his gun and starts shooting at Bessie, but is killed in only 2 days from retirement. Ian craves action so much that it's only after he arrives does he tell Carla to call for backup, which requires her to wait outside apparently. He also leaves the jar of instant death and goes in with nothing but his 20 guns and a shoulder-mounted attack pigeon. Ian comes across the beast when it peeks over his shoulder instead of just attacking him, then grabs his shotgun with a clawed hand. It knocks it away, then demonstrates some real skill to grab this man without ripping out his throat before throwing him onto the gun. It's useless against this thing anyway, so Ian gets dragged by tentacles towards the belly of the beast like he's going into a wood chipper. He draws the blade of convenience from his back, cutting himself free, and even the powerful monster runs away from a crazy dude with a knife. Carla realizes she doesn't have to just sit outside and do nothing, so she brings her big jar of poison and joins the hunt. When police officers arrive, one waits outside while the other goes searching for this monster he heard about but gets turned into tomato soup. When the beast comes across Ian, it bites the gun out of his hand, but he just draws another and there's barely a pause in the shooting. This thing grew new tentacles, I guess, and snags Ian again, so Carla throws him the jar, which is luckily shatterproof. He stuffs it into the belly of the beast, then instead of just letting Carla hand him a chainsaw or do it herself, she trips over and it slides to him. Ian sticks it into Bessie's stomach and appears to kill it, but the deceptive bioweapon was just playing dead and pimp slaps him across the room. It avoids so much as scratching him, and instead of finishing off the person that it just knocked down, it charges at Carla. For some reason, the captain shows up a few minutes before the rest of the backup and brought along a gun attachment for his scope. Unfortunately, he forgot the grenades or a spare magazine, so he runs out of bullets rather quickly and switches to an axe. He then picks up a crowbar and shoves it down Bessie's throat while Ian comes up behind it with the chainsaw and takes off its head. This thing has barely hit the ground and already the captain claims it for his trophy cabinet while Ian embraces the first partner he hasn't got killed. There's always the next time, I suppose, and the paramedics arrive to ask if anybody needs assistance, but they've all been turned into liquid. And the movie ends.